is my pleasure to introduce Dean McMurray. Dean is the military medium. He is an internationally acclaimed psychic, medium, healer, dowser, and ordained minister. His story, so powerful and so authentic, it's unlike any other psychic medium out there. And it's why people from all across the globe are drawn to him for readings and personal guidance.
I am Dean McMurray. I served 24 years in the United States Army. But now I'm in service as a medium. I sensed he actually died younger, and I'm understanding it's not by natural causes, and it's not by an accident. I use my psychic abilities in helping veterans, their families, communicate with the fallen in the spiritual realm. He shows me the number 5. Is the number 5 significant for you? My combat military experiences make me more attuned to a deceased loved one that served in the military. He really wants you to know as you move forward, it's not about forgetting him, but it's about being able to live life again. I'm seeing those that have crossed over, and we have a conversation back and forth. So I speak to dead people.
Well, thank you. Little confession, I've never seen that clip up on a big screen before, and this is the first time that we're unveiling that. It was just a recent project that I was involved in. And thank you to Patrick. Another big round of applause to Patrick, this great event. Just the lives that we're changing. If I could get another hand, we'll bring up the table and we'll get going with the presentation. Don't worry, I'm not giving readings today. Thank you. All right. Well, as you all well know, and by a show of hands, I know it probably intrigued a lot of you that saw on the billing that there was going to be a psychic medium here today, and saying, what the heck was he thinking? He is so completely out of the box thinking that he has brought in a psychic medium to talk to all of you. I'm not going to get into my story of how I became a medium or doing readings, but the thing that I've been doing for the last 9 years is using and leveraging the ability of my God-given ability of intuition. And it's something that I believe that each and every one of us have. It's hardwired within it. So by a show of hands, who here in the last 24 to 48 hours has used Google? Just about everybody. Who here has used Bing, Yahoo, some other web search, right? Millions of results at our fingertips throughout the interwebs, right? And wouldn't it be cool to know that we have that ability within us? We have a built-in Google, if you will. And so that's what I'm here to talk to you today. So who here loves to do professional development? Read self-help books, take different courses, those types of things. I went through the house because we have a self-help library as well, just like a lot of folks. And I was like, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of go through some of these books and see where it talks about intuition? Just a few. Danny Bader's I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite. It's not the Bush Light, but the Miller Lite. Jen Sincero, if you've ever taken any of her book studies, she wrote a couple great books about talking about you're a badass and making money and how to stop your doubt. Talks about in both books about intuition in detail. The Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift, great book. Now, the next lady, you may know her. She's actually out of Grand Forks. Catherine Vignes wrote a book called Growing Wild. And I want to read to you because a little snippet of what Catherine wrote, because I believe it encompasses the essence of intuition. She does so very beautifully. As I made it a habit to focus my mind and sink into the stillness, I was amazed at how fast time would pass, how colors became vibrant, and how magnetic my energy would flow. I was so used to pleading to God for an answer that I never realized that I needed to be quiet in order to hear his response. I didn't have to be reactionary in my response anymore. If I sat and listened, I could co-create my response in line with God's purpose. I believe Catherine does a great job in encompassing what intuition truly is. Who here has read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Great book about talking about abundance, a mindset, right? And he also talks about intuition in this book. Who here knows this guy, right? How many, and maybe some of you don't know, because as I was doing a little research, my wife, my lovely wife, who isn't here today, Marilyn, which many of you know, actually said, you should ask Patrick about some of his past events, how he got inspired by, just seeming out of everywhere. I know he takes inspiration out of everything, but also talking about intuition. And last but not least, one of my favorites, right up there with Patrick's, of course, is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. By a show of hands, who has taken the study or read this book? And this has been around for 82 years. This was written back in 1937. And of course, I want to say chapter 5 and 13 are really big on it. We're going to come back to this book a little bit. It's not a book study today, guys, but it's more about talking about what intuition is and really about how you can leverage the law of attraction using your intuition and put that into action in everything you do every day. It doesn't matter whether you're in the nonprofit sector or not. I know there's some here today that don't specifically do fundraising, and maybe you do something else, but you can use it for fundraising. You can use it if you're an electrician or just a stay-at-home parent, whatever that is. So some real basic steps that you can use. If you want to write these down, you're more than welcome to. And I didn't do any fancy slides. I'm kind of more old school, I guess. So the first one I would really say is get clear on your vision. Who is your chief visionary officer? Who is responsible for painting the picture for not only your team, your organization, but for yourself? Now, a lot of people say that would lie with me. And if you're not clear on that, what your vision is, what is your goal in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, then you need to get clear on that, okay? Write down your goals. Who here has done a vision board? Show of hands. Okay, you know that you were doing the woo-woo stuff? I call it woo-woo when you're setting those goals, right? You're connecting the energetic aspect with the logical goal setting of the conscious mind, okay? They are very powerful tools. See it and achieve it, right? So the next thing is raise your frequency. Your vibe will attract your tribe. So if you're always in a negative space or hanging around negative people, what kind of results are you going to expect from that? So, and I would ask you, how's that working for you? So sometimes we have to change the people that we're hanging around. Who's your 5? And what I mean by 5, who are the 5 people that you spend the most time around? Okay? Are they lifting you up or are they pulling you down? Okay? You can typically feel the energy associated with those folks. The people that are very negative, when you walk into a room, it'd be like, I think Patrick mentioned the name, and if anybody here today is named Karen, please excuse me, but a lot of times it's like, oh, Karen or Bill or whatever your name is, or Dean, it's like, here they come again, oh my God. And next thing you know, it's always they're emotionally expelling all their issues on you, all their energy coming on you, and it's just like, walk away even, heavier, right? What about those people like Patrick? When he walks away, you feel what? Lighter. You feel more energetic because he's feeding that to you. He's not pulling away. He's what? Giving. So, couple different, be aware of how people are making you feel. I'm sure anybody that works with media, everybody in the nonprofit sector, anybody that interacts with people at any level can tell you that certain people will give off their vibe. It's like somebody that forgot to take a shower and it's humid out. It's like, dude, you need to take a shower, right? It's like some you want to distance away, some you're drawn in by their energy. Okay, the other piece is be in gratitude and give back often. It's so, I heard it said today up here, is, we can find ways to be grateful for everything. Maybe Mondays aren't so great, but guess what? Everything could go like crap, but I bet you this, is that we can find something to be grateful for. Did you wake up today? Did you have a meal today? Do you have a roof over your head? And it's called about, avoiding the icebergs or the obstacles in life. If there's issues that come up, don't focus on what's going wrong, focus on what's going right. And that would be the same when it comes to raising money, right? So if everything is going like crap and Mondays are for what? Planning? If I was paying attention. So if everything is falling through the cracks and not working right, focus on what is working for you. And the other thing is give back often. So it's out, when you give, you're opening yourself up to receive. Now, a lot of people say and this is more on our aspect, when people always associate that with money. And that's not always the case. You can give of your time, talents. You can give maybe a venue. You can give, there's so many things other than money. Obviously, if you're in the fundraising scope, you're gonna make that pitch for a monetary amount. However, the thing is there's more than one way to give, right? So something to think about when you're giving of yourself. And when you're doing it, don't do it out of obligation, saying, I just give something to get them out of here. No, it's not that. We're not a carnival. Saying, do so in gratitude, saying, I'm giving this to you from me without any expectations, and I do so in gratitude of you, okay? And which brings me to a real fun one, is practice makes perfect, right? So all of these principles is not a one-day deal. It's like, anybody here go, well, I'm just going to use the example of Quartz Plus, because this is by my house. So Quartz Plus, if I went there today, took a Pilates class, what do you think would happen? Number one, I'd probably half die, but the other half is saying the next day I would probably be, quite honestly, sore as hell. And saying, and if I never attended another class, would that do me any good? Absolutely not. So remember this, remember, intuition is just like a muscle. You have to continually exercise it day in and day out and become part of your normal routine. Now, I know looking over the crowds, there's, I see 3 or 4 folks that I recognize or I've maybe been in studies with or whatever the case is. And I know some of you already have a command or an understanding of what your intuition, how it works for you. And the thing that I always share is that it's almost like finding out how the universe communicates with you. And so it's almost like learning to read again, okay? So give yourself time. So what I would like to do is invite Mr. Patrick Kirby up on the stage and join me for this next little bit. Bueller? Oh, there he is. Okay. So, and I didn't have my materials here, evidently. And yes, sir. So in your crates, you're going to find those little jars of Play-Doh. You're probably going, what the heck did they, what was Patrick thinking? So what we're going to do is, talking about practice makes perfect. And this is one of the things, really talking about playing. So what we're going to do is a little exercise. And what I'd like you to do is watch the interaction between me and Patrick. So which everybody loves the, Play-Doh. It's like therapeutic, right? Now, I know everybody's right now is going, what the heck? You guys got the big jars and we got the little jar. I just grabbed them. I apologize. So the thing is that this is a fun exercise. What we're going to do is, in a little bit, you guys are going to pair up, but you're going to have a partner. And the premise is you're going to use your intuition, your abilities, believe it or not, because I've heard this over and over again, Dean, I don't have your abilities. Well, you're not talking to dead people here today, guys. You're connecting to the energy that surrounds all of us to get a feeling of what the question is, or what the issue is, or whatever it is, okay? So what's gonna happen is Patrick, we're not gonna tell you the answer, by the way, until after we're all done, but Patrick is going to think of a question in his mind. He's not gonna verbalize it. And then he's gonna envision sending it to me telepathically, and I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna sculpt it the best I can. Now, before you comment, say, Dean, I'm no Picasso, neither am I. That's all right, do the best that you can. And then once you're done, then go ahead and do the other person. So, you ready?
Yep.
So go ahead and just take a nice deep breath. Okay.
This is gonna freak me out.
And then while I'm doing this, just for time's sake, I'll go ahead and do the same for you. Did you catch those thoughts? Did you catch my vibe? Okay, cool. All right. So, go ahead and sculpt. And this is kind of like, I should have had some dramatic music, something cool. I always joke with people and say, I have no clue what I'm doing. I literally listen to the voices in my head. So, and I don't want anybody that works in psychiatric come up later and be like, I got something that can help you. No, just kidding. So, all right. So we're not going to reveal our answers right yet. What I want you guys to do, you got your answer, Patrick? So what I would like is for all of you now to pair up. And so you should have a partner. Make sure you have your Play-Doh. And I want you to do the same thing. So go ahead. And if you got any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. Freak out. What does that look like?
Hope I wasn't giving that vibe.
Are you guys good? You all right? Okay. And like I said, if you're having problems, you can certainly raise your hand. This is more of a interactive aspect. If you need me to run down there and give you a little bit of guidance, I certainly can. Anybody else have any questions? If you need some assistance, you can raise your hand. And we'll give you about one more minute, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So you got about a minute. So one of the questions from the front was saying, hey, I'm not getting anything. Like somebody left the wine cork in, and it's like, there's a block, Dean, what's going on? And my first answer, you haven't had enough mimosas. You need to go back over there. But the second aspect is make sure, and I know we're doing it in a time-constrained environment, but make sure you take a nice deep breath in. And then just imagine receiving that into your heart and also setting it out from that. And your first thing that comes to your mind, because what happens? Self-doubt creeps in. And be like, this does not make, what is that weird guy talking about? The first image that pops in your head, try to sculpt that. We got about 30 seconds left. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Let's go ahead and do the reveal. We'll do the reveal, and if you guys want to talk about it more in length too, about your findings after this, you're more than welcome to. It's kind of a fun exercise to do. Whether you could do this as a team building exercise, you can do this as a social exercise. You think something with maybe a few drinks, whatever. Hey, it's up to you. But so, all right. So we're gonna do the Patrick. What was your question to me? Oh, sorry.
My initial question was, are people having an awesome time?
Are people having an awesome time was his question. Now, one of the things that I saw, now this, regardless of what it looks like, because I know when I hold it up, a lot of people are gonna go, that's not what you sculpted, Dean. This is actually a canoe, okay? And so one of the things that's the first thing that I saw. And what I heard was there was enough room in the canoe for everybody. And so when you think of everybody together having a good time, I think would kind of, and it's kind of hard to really sculpt an answer, hey, is everybody having a good time? You know, but the thing is having fun with it. Who had a block? I know we have one down here. Who else, be honest, who had a block? Be like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dean. Okay, that's very common. Hey, well, so think about this. When you're looking at that next donor, when you're talking to that CFO, that COO, whoever's tasking you to do that next project, for some of you, that self-doubt or that logic is going to creep in of what Patrick talking about, the multiple hats that a lot of you wear, saying how the holy heck am I going to accomplish all of this in a given time span that it's unthinkable, it's not human. And saying, is there a possibility? Is there a way to accomplish what we need to accomplish? And I believe, within reason, that with a slice of logic, but using and leveraging our intuition, we can make things happen. So thank you so much, Pat. Oh, one question too is, what did you, before?
I had a party hat.
Party hat.
Yeah. But it's a terrible looking party hat.
And I was asking about my, and it's really interesting because I'm also working on my next level of, we'll just say, media events and talking about celebration, right? Or having fun with it. So that's really great. Everybody give Patrick a round of applause. Thank you for my, and you get to keep the Play-Doh. Win-win. All right, so kind of fun, something a little bit different. Who doesn't like Play-Doh? Come on. I mean, it's almost therapeutic, right? So the next one, the next kind of principle to develop your intuition is disconnect to reconnect. So many distractions in everyday world, right? iPhones, computers, iPads, TVs in the background, TV cameras, whatever it is, it could be everyday life. There's distractions at work, while we're driving, while we're at home, while we're sleeping. There's distractions all the time. And sometimes, if you need to get clear, for some of us, we almost have to have absolute silence. Now, I know what you're going to say, Dean, I don't have a meditation room. How can I get quiet? Well, it was interesting. I was out in the garage the other day, and I saw these hanging on the shelf. And I was like, oh my God, I totally got to bring them, because back early on my development, when I was trying to get quiet and developing my own intuitive abilities, I actually wore these. And I probably looked pretty funny. I wish I was a mouse in a corner watching myself. But I would go down in our basement, and you could still hear the kids like racetrack around the house, right? But it wasn't quiet enough. I needed it dead quiet. And so these are very inexpensive, something that a lot of people have. Maybe you have earplugs, whatever the case is. And I was like, I am totally bringing these, because it is something that if you need something as simple as earmuffs, and I know it sounds crazy, then do so. Maybe a lot of people love music. So a lot of people walking around with earbuds in. A lot of people do it at work. They have one in here and the other, working as a receptionist, whatever you might do. So whatever works for you. Maybe you like to go in a blanket fort, whatever. Now, the other thing that kind of dropped off the table, who here is dog lovers or has a dog? Cat lovers? Lizards? Snakes? Anything you can walk. I guess snake you really can't walk, I guess. But so the other thing is for meditation, so getting quiet or disconnecting to reconnect, a lot of great ideas or moments of brilliance come to people when they're out walking their pet. Or maybe when you're doing something that you would least expect. A lot of times I would get a lot of dead people that would bug me while I'm painting the house or doing a paint project. But at the same time, I would get a lot of great ideas for events or other people or whatever the thing is. So these moments of brilliance pop in. Going back to Napoleon Hill, I don't know if those that have read it, talks about Napoleon Hill in one part, talks about walking around a schoolhouse until he figured out his issue before he actually went and wrote this book. And it was back during the Great Depression, right? And so it was that, you think of the walking meditation aspect. Now, he didn't call it walking meditation. We have these new fancy new age labels for everything. But at the same time, understand it doesn't have to look like somebody sitting lotus position going, Om, and then burning incense. Now, if that's your thing, that's cool. But at the same time, what works for you will not work for somebody else. There is not a one-size-fits-all in any of this. So you got to figure out what works. But the thing that a lot of Fortune 500 companies and other successful business owners have learned is taking time not only for themselves, but for their staff to either have meditation or quiet time that they can actually break away from the daily grind. And it's actually gone on to show that it's reduced stress, anxiety, sickness, and a whole host of other things. So if it becomes more of something for you, awesome. If it's not, that's great. I will tell you personally what I did is I actually took a 6-month meditation course. Now, that's not bragging because I found out I really don't like traditional meditation, but I found something that did work. So, ask questions and guidance. So if we're all doing this, if we're connected, if we have this internal Google, how many here has asked for higher guidance, like a prayer, somebody in spirit saying, hey, I need some guidance on, you got one over here, you got a few. A lot of people be like, Dean, I don't want to be there. It's like, it's all right to raise your hand. And don't get caught up in labels. Maybe your belief, your religious belief, or what I deal with a lot of people that are of a particular faith or no faith. I deal with people of all backgrounds. A beautiful saying one time somebody said is, praying is talking to God, and meditation is listening. And so it's interesting, however you want to look at intuition and meditation, okay? So, but make sure you're asking questions and capture those answers or flashes of brilliance. Now, one common way that a lot of times that, we get that divine guidance, maybe you're coming out of that subconscious state in sleep, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I had the best idea last night for this event or for this donor or this do-gooders conference. But then it's like, psst, and it's like, and over morning coffee, you're like, oh, I remember I was eating hamburgers but I was naked. But what about, and it totally escapes us, right? But then the other crazy one about a million cat memes, like, we can never forget it. And it's like, what's the deal there? But so the thing I would share is if you are somebody that gets a lot of inspiration coming out of that sleep state, maybe you need to keep a journal by the bed. And even in that groggy state, write it down. And for those moments of brilliance, okay? Or carry it with you. We all have our phones most of the time when, a lot of times if somebody's in the bathroom or wherever, and it seems like brilliance strikes at the most inopportune time. We're in the shower. We're in the bathroom. We're chasing the kids. We're doing life. And a lot of times we want to capture that, but it just escapes us. So make sure you're doing that. And then the other thing is take immediate action. Don't delay, guys. How many times have you yourself or somebody that you know has been in that perpetual cycle of, well, I will, but I got to get ready. I got to get this in place. And it's a perpetual cycle of, well, I got to get ready, right? And we never get ready. And it's almost like, well, now it's too late. Just take immediate action. Put one foot. And it seems like when we take the first step, a little story back when several months, sounds like a lot of people up here today, several months when I had this crazy guy named Patrick Kirby, we were chatting over coffee, and he was talking about this concept, about this crazy idea about this conference. And I was like, God, that just sounds great. And we started talking about intuition and how I've been leveraging it to do like a lot of great things. And he said, hey, do you think you could use that for the nonprofit sector and everyday life? And I said, absolutely. I've been doing it for the last 9 years. And he was saying, you know what? You need to come and speak. And it'd be like, and I didn't delay. Now, but I took one step forward is what I did. I made a commitment, and then I was like, oh crap, what did I do? You know? But at the same time is understand when you take the first step, the universe seems to answer back and say, open all the doors of opportunity before you. Maybe it's that phone call to that donor. Maybe it's sending that first thank you card to those people that Patrick talked about. You know, today as as our first speakers this morning from Patrick, Abby, and Miles, I was kind of taking notes, and I was like, I love seeing how it all connects. You know, Patrick talked about relationships and the energy of that, capturing that, and it's really the essence of intuition, right? And really that's where we're at. And Abby talked about stories that resonate with people. Now, I'm sure in each of those aspects you can feel the energy, right? With stories that move people energetically and emotionally, and saying they can see themselves in others and they can connect to that. But at the same time, when I go back to it, I use the word feel and energy, and that is the essence of intuition. So make sure you're using that as a guide, okay? When you're trying to make a decision whether to reach out to this organization or do this or do that. And then also Miles talks about engagement on the social media platform, talking about energy. So everything that you post, everything that you do, you're exuding your energy, your intuitive gifts out to the world, okay? Is saying that everybody is capturing you. So it's just beautiful to hear the how everybody is blending into each other. And then the last thing, obviously, is diet. Now, I'm not talking about, hey, that was a great lunch and all that. What I'm talking about is what are you feeding your soul? The mind, body, and spirit connection. So when you talk about your soul, when was the last time you've laughed? When was the last time that you maybe cried in a good way, or maybe just those real ugly tears and get rid of that toxicity? What kind of environment are you living in? What kind of environment are you working in? Is it toxic? I don't know. But that's something self-reflection for you. And if you're doing that, it's going to weigh on you. But at the same time, is if you're feeding yourself Twinkies all the time, so in the same sense as you're not feeding your soul what it really truly craves and needs, is that you can, you're not giving your true self out to everybody else, okay? So ask yourself, am I truly feeding my soul? And maybe it's taking a self-help course. One last thing, I said that I'd come back to Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And I just want to read a little bit of chapter 13 real quick. And it talks about the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom, the 13th step in riches, right? And through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from the demands of the individual. The sixth sense defies description. And I would also add this, your intuition defies logic. How many stories have you heard of? Maybe it's happened to you specifically, that you're driving down, say, I-94, I-29, wherever, and all of a sudden you just turned. You don't know why. It's like, oh my God, why would I turn down here? And all of a sudden, maybe you learn that there was a car accident up ahead. Maybe there was somebody broke down that you ended up being able to help them. Or why would you go to saying, oh my God, Dean, I don't even do any fundraising. I'm not a nonprofit, but I felt guided to come to Patrick Kirby's event, and oh my God, the connections I made. If you're listening to your intuition, it will not steer you wrong. Now, I know there's some out there saying, Dean, I've listened to my intuition. It's drunk. It doesn't know what it's talking about. And I would say this, your intuition is never wrong. Our interpretation of our intuition is wrong. Okay? A lot of people say, every time I try to listen to what my gut's telling me, I get it wrong, Dean. And I would say this is the last piece that I have for you guys today is trust, trust, trust. If you have blind faith that your intuition will not steer you wrong, and you continue to trust even after time and time again saying, I don't know, I felt guided to come, but nothing happened, and I went over here and nothing happened, and I reached out to this organization and nothing happened, Dean. Guess what? You need to trust that those seeds are being planted. You need to trust that your presence in that place at that time, even though it's such a bigger picture that you can't see at this time, will come back tenfold on the positive for you. Okay? So trusting. So intuition is going to look different for each and every person and the way you go about that. But if you can learn to enhance and leverage that, you can use it in a sense as a radar. I call it spidey senses, or hey, I'll always say, hey, I'm getting my spidey tingles, and saying, hey, I'm feeling guided, or I feel. And I use that word a lot because I can feel it here, or I can feel it here. And if something doesn't feel good, usually it's here. Don't get confused what comes out of here and here. Everything up here is the logical reptilian mind that has the to-do list, oh my God, I've got to pick up the kids. I got to submit that report. I got to go pick up dry cleaning. Here is where your intuitive mind lives. And I would share is, don't think with this mind, think with this mind. And don't see with these eyes, see with these eyes. When you truly understand what I just said, then you will be well on your way to developing your intuitive self. Okay? So, thank you so much for having me today. I'm going to open it up to questions for the last 19 minutes we have here. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Yes, we have one over here.
Yes, I'm curious about how do you practice intuition and interpreting intuition?
Great. The question is how do you practice intuition and how do you interpret it? So the best way is this. So probably at least 90% of you probably go to meetings, you do different things. So start doing fun exercise saying, how many people are going to be there? Okay? That would be a great one. It's if you want to consider a guessing game, but it's not guessing because I don't want you to guess. I want you to feel it. How many people do you see sitting in those seats? And maybe you see an empty seat and saying, hey, I know there's supposed to be 10, but I feel that there's only going to be 9. Now, I know there's somebody out there, Dean, can I use that for the football game? Sometimes, but not really. And saying, if I was able to use it for lottery numbers, because that's the next question, you can't use it for lottery numbers, sorry. But so the thing is that's a great question. How can you use it? Now, how does it quantify? How do you validate? Exactly. If you show up and there's only 9 people, be like, hey, I was right. And then continue. And then continue. Now, if you get it wrong, say, interesting, but I really felt only 9 people. Maybe that person was going to show up, but at the last minute they decided to come. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that you're picking up on the vibration. It's called picking up on the vibrational pattern of what currently is. And understand as humans, we can change the dynamic outcome of, and I'm really cautious by saying the psychic predictions. It's not a psychic prediction. It's picking up on what vibes or energy is being put out. And it really, truly has been measured by science before that everything is communicating with each other. So great question. It'll validate itself. Yes?
I also wanted to say the guy that I was doing my mind meld with,
Uh-huh.
his answer was canoe.
Wow, crazy. See? Maybe we're supposed to go on a canoe trip. I don't know. Canoe Outfitters, new nonprofit. Anybody else? Yes, over here.
I was just wondering if you feel that intuition and coincidence have a correlation.
I don't. Here's why. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't, because I believe that saying, oh, that's kind of cool, that must be a real big, I believe that everything is divinely inspired. I believe that we're in this beautifully orchestrated divine world, right? User-created world, because that's truly, we create our own reality, is my belief, is Dean's belief. And so answering your question is that I don't believe that there are any coincidences. I believe it's part of a bigger plan, why we are in whatever situation right now, where we are in this moment. And saying, you know, there's a bigger purpose in it all. So I don't believe in coincidences. But, you know, it's really, coincidence is a label that I believe that we've come up with in our language to explain certain phenomena, right? But I don't believe intuition and coincidence have any interaction. But the thing is that, and when you really get eyeball deep into your development, where you really see it, it's like where you can really see the division in a sense. Does that make sense? Okay, great question. Any other questions? Bueller? One over here.
Do you do just military medium, or do you do?
Great question. So on the medium aspect, what you saw earlier was really a television concept that was come up that was focusing heavily on the military. Do I love working with the military? Absolutely. Veterans, families, all that great stuff, but no. I would say actually 70% or maybe a greater percentage of my clientele demographic is civilian, meaning all of you. And whether there's veterans in here, I'm sure there is. Well, I know there is, but you know, so, you know, no, it's not all military. I don't go out saying, hey, I can't see you because you're not military. I don't ask for the ID card. I don't ask for papers. I see people, you know, kids, families, wherever. And one of the things, and it's a great thing, is, you know, I really open myself up and say, how can I serve today? And really in any capacity. It might not be even as a medium, because sometimes I like just being Dean, not Dean the medium or Dean the dad, or, you know, it's like, might be Dean, get your butt out there and get on that honey-do list. I don't know. You know, so whatever that is, I just ask, how can I serve today? And it might be helping somebody at their grocery store. It could be helping a grieving mother. So, does that answer your question? Great question. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. And it was a pleasure talking to you today. So.